So homeschool is supposed to be fun, joyful, magical, right? Well, what if you have a reluctant learner? What if you have a child that just doesn't like school? That's what we're going to talk about today. Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Emily and I am a second-year homeschooling mom to one first grader, and we are expecting baby number 2 on the way. And on this channel, I talk about all things motherhood, homeschooling, healthy living, and faith. So if any of that interests you, be sure to hit that subscribe button below and click that little bell icon so that you get notified for whenever I post new videos. This video is a collaboration hosted by Ashley over at Joyful Noise Learning. And I absolutely love her channel. She shares tons of tips and tricks on homeschooling, teaching your child about the Word of God, as well as enjoying everything in the midst of motherhood and homemaking. So in this collaboration, there are going to be several other moms sharing their tips and tricks or their experiences with their reluctant learner. So when you're done watching this video, be sure to check out Ashley's channel as well as the playlist, which will be linked down in the description below. So first, I want to start off with just remembering that just like us as adults, that there are a lot of things that we might not do or want to do, or we procrastinate doing, or we just have no desire to do because we're not interested. Children are the same way. And so they are people too. They have feelings, they have emotions, they have things that are going on in their heads, in their little bodies. And so whether it be energy, whether it be their attitudes to certain things. And while it doesn't excuse any kind of disobedience in any way, our children are still supposed to, when we ask them to do something or tell them that there's certain things and responsibilities that they have to do it. But it's just to be aware that it helps us better understand them when we look at them as people, the same way we have certain things going on and certain feelings, they do too. For some kids, learning is exhausting. It takes more of an effort for them. And if they're younger, then even more so. And so I definitely want to reference the fact that age does play a part. And for example, my son is in first grade. He is 6 years old. And his attention span is definitely better than it was when he was 4 and even 5 years old. However, he is not going to have the same focus and attention that an 8, 9, or even 10-year-old would have. And so if you have multiple children in different age ranges, though I personally don't have experience with that, I would definitely recommend thinking about that as far as the expectations with your younger child versus children that might be a year, 2, or even 3 years older than that child. Children who are younger, I would say within the 7-year-old and, lower age group, they do get exhausted quicker. The expectations on them should definitely be a lot less when it comes to how long they're expected to do certain things or to pay attention to certain things. So going into my first tip would be taking breaks. I really do think that this has helped us in our homeschooling. I have seen the fruit of it like I said, this is my second year homeschooling, and it took me about halfway through my first year of homeschooling to realize that breaks were definitely necessary. And I needed to evaluate when we were taking our breaks. I needed to evaluate how my son looked during certain lessons. Was the lesson overwhelming for him? Do we need a break now in the middle of the lesson for about 5-10 minutes and then come back and regroup? There were times that we had to do that. So now it's a little bit different and we don't have much of that struggle in between lessons, but you might have a child that does. And it doesn't necessarily matter the age. It could just be the difficulty of what they're learning, and they could be getting frustrated and upset and overwhelmed. And so even if your child's older, like 8, 9, or 10, you know, sometimes, all right, let's take a break. We need to walk away and take a breather. And so maybe go have a snack, maybe go play with their toys, whatever the case is, and then come back in 5, 10, 15 minutes, and then maybe go back to the lesson with a fresh and more relaxed mind. And so with my son, what we've done is we have done, depending on the lesson, on how long the lesson is, normally his lessons don't take more than about 20 minutes, 30 minutes max. And so what we do is every 2 lessons, we will take a break for about 10 to 20 minutes. And if the lessons took longer or they were harder, then that's where he'll kind of have a longer break, just so that he can relax his mind and have a little bit of fun. And so I have found it great to have a timer. So we have a timer that we use, and it's just one of those little learning resources timers. And I put it for how many minutes that he has his break. And it's a great visual so that he is aware, okay, school's not over, but as soon as this timer goes off, I know I have to go back to my schoolwork. And so it's a great visual for him. He knows how many minutes more or less he has left, or just listening to that buzzer, he knows, okay, break is done and I have to get back to schoolwork. And sometimes he'll be like, wait, can I finish this real quick? And I won't stress it. I'll give him the extra minute or 2 to finish whatever he was in the middle of. I'm not going to take that away from him. But definitely I recommend breaks help, and it gives them a better attitude when approaching their work. When they're constantly giving work back to back to back, they're not going to be in the mood. They're not going to want to do it. And you'll clearly see that. My next tip, and I would say this is probably the most important tip to me, is to talk to your child. Find out why they're reluctant to learning in a particular subject or to school altogether. Find out why they don't like school. Is it a subject? Is it the way that you're teaching them? Maybe it's the curriculum. Maybe they don't like the curriculum and they're not finding it joyful. Or maybe they feel like it's boring, or whatever the case is. Then you communicating with them allows you to know, you know what, maybe I need to get more manipulatives involved in order for them to, maybe they're visual learners or kinesthetic learners, then maybe you need to work on getting more visuals and hands-on things for them to comprehend it and find it more enjoyable. Maybe there's too much handwriting that they're doing in all of their assignments. And so let's say they're practicing spelling words. Maybe instead of having them write down their spelling words, you have them dictate it to you. And that would be a great way to give their hands some relaxing, especially if they're younger. They're not used to, they're still developing their motor skills and the ability to write for longer periods of time. So maybe doing something like that. Maybe instead of writing on paper, use a marker and a whiteboard and have them write on there, because maybe it's just like they don't want to write on paper anymore. They want to do something different. I have a board, a LED drawing pad, and I'll put a picture right here of what it looks like. But basically on that pad, we've used as an option to write spelling words or to practice handwriting. And that has given my son just a different aspect of it. We do have a whiteboard with all the letters from the All About Reading curriculum. And so we have those letter tiles. And so sometimes instead of writing or even dictating, we will use that board, and my son will go ahead and he'll practice spelling words using the letter tiles. And so if you have letter tiles at home, any kind of letter tiles that you have, plenty of them to use to spell out words, that's what your child can use instead of handwriting. So just coming up with different options on how to make learning a little bit more fun and different. In my situation, when I was speaking with my son, one of the problems that I have found recently for a little while now, and I spoke to him about it, he has done great with his phonics. He is as far as his reading, he's an average to above average reader. He has no problem doing explode the code. He has no problem doing any of that. But when I ask him to sit down and read for 15 minutes, it's a problem. It's constantly like, oh, I have to read. And I'm just like, what's wrong? You don't like the books? Is it the books that you're reading? What is it? He's like, I don't know. And I'm like, well, you have to know. And so I probe and I ask questions and I get him to think. And eventually it came out that he doesn't always know all the words. So what I'm getting out of it is he's not confident in his reading ability. And so he says because he doesn't know all the words and because sometimes the words are hard or he doesn't know the words right away, so he has to constantly pronounce them, then he doesn't know how to read. And so he doesn't want to read the books because it's not like he knows how to read. And I'm like, you do know how to read, and pronouncing is part of getting better and part of practicing. And he's not the type of kid that cares to practice. He is a perfectionist. And so he wants to just be good at it. And if he's not good at it, then he stinks and he wants nothing to do with it. And instead of being encouraged and pushing harder, he backs down and just wants to avoid it completely. And so what we're going to do, and what I plan to do this week actually, is I'm going to create a 100 chart, like a reading book chart. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use it to encourage him to read. And so every time he reads a book, he gets to put a sticker on there himself. And this is a similar thing that I got from All About Reading, because All About Reading, every time they finished a lesson, they will put a sticker on the reading path all the way till they finished the curriculum. And so he really liked that. And so I figured maybe if we do that with the books, it might encourage him to want to read. Most of his books are words that he is familiar with. And if there's anything that he hasn't learned yet, I help him along with pronouncing them or with telling him what it might be. So I know that his confidence is the issue more than anything. And so I know that he does need more, even though he knows words, he does need to practice actually reading and just his flow of reading. And so that is what I want to use to hopefully encourage him. And then once he reaches that 100 book mark, then hopefully that will make him feel fully accomplished with everything he was able to do. He can feel more like he did it. And, hopefully this confidence thing just grows a little bit better and his perfectionism starts to decrease. But at the end of it, he will have an incentive, and my husband and I will come up with whatever that incentive will be once he reaches that 100 books. So that's something that we're going to be working on this week at doing. My next tip might sound very simple, but it helps. Now, if you have a child who doesn't like school, or maybe there's sheet work that they have to do to practice their assignments, to practice what they've learned, stickers are very helpful. You can put stickers on every assignment that they do. And you could be like, that was such a great job. And put that sticker on there. And they feel a sense of accomplishment. They feel like they did something good. And so that's one way to go about it. If you feel like putting a sticker on every assignment is too much, then kind of do it at the end of the day. Put it on their hand or their shirt and be like, you did a great job with school today. And I would add, included in this, words of affirmation, because that also helps them, that boosts their confidence. And when you have a child who's not crazy about school, doesn't find it fun, or doesn't find, maybe words of affirmation are their love language. And so maybe that's what you need to do to kind of help them along the way. And if you have the scratch and sniff stickers, even better. I bought some scratch and sniff stickers, and I had mentioned that this is one of my favorite homeschool mom must-haves in a previous video I did a few months ago, and we absolutely love it. and my son loves it. He loves scratching and sniffing it. And he gets really excited when he gets a sticker on his paper because it makes him feel like he did such a great job. So depending on how your child is, find out how it works for you and your child best. The other tip that I would give is getting them up and moving during lessons. You know, if they're counting by fives, have them stand up and sit down every time. You know, they sit down, they say 5, they stand up, they say 10, they sit down, they say 15, and go on and on. Or if they're counting by 2s or 4s, whatever the case is, get them up and moving, make it different. You can have them clap out, whether it's syllables, or have them stomp out their spelling words, different things like that to get them up and moving. Because sometimes they don't want to learn because they don't want to sit. They don't want to be there. And so I have noticed that sometimes with my son, where it's not really the learning part of it. It's really, he just doesn't want to sit there, and to him, whatever it is that we're doing is boring. It's not fun. You know, he wants to move. And so sometimes we do take school from the table to the floor to the sofa. Sometimes it's up and down. Sometimes we do jumping jacks in between math problems and stuff like that. And so that helps him to get some of his energy out, but also makes it feel like it's more fun. The other way you can go about this and making it different and fun is doing game schooling. I have a video that I did last year on some of the games that we implemented to do game schooling. And so we have a few games, and sometimes what we'll do is we'll just scrap all the workbook work, and we will just focus on games that are enhancing the same skills and things that he's learning in the game. And so we have games that revolve around math and games that revolve around phonics. And then I actually bought one recently that it has to do with spelling also. And so those are different ways that you can still teach them. They're still learning, but they're having fun. And technically, it's still a school day. And so if you don't want to get completely away from the books, then maybe what you want to do is you want to do some game schooling, and then let them do that first because they feel like they have more fun. And then what you can do is you can have them do some book work, or if you have extra like workbooks around, like 𝗹𝗶𝘁𝗁, or maybe you have 𝗹𝗶𝘁𝗁𝗘 books, you can use that in replace of your actual curriculum. And that could be helpful as well. And my last tip would be not to put too much pressure on your child. Sometimes they might wake up and just not be feeling it that day. And you might be trying to work with them and it's just not working. Maybe try, if you can, changing your schedule up that day a little bit. So instead of doing school in the morning, maybe let them play. Let them do whatever it is that they want to do to get their energy out, to get whatever's on their mind. You know, if they're focused on wanting to play, if they're focused on wanting to do something specific, then let them do that. And then maybe do schooling in the afternoon. And, or maybe split it. Maybe, okay, hey, you can play for a little bit. We're going to do let's say handwriting and math. And that's it for right now. And then later we'll do whatever it is, reading, phonics, or whatever other subjects, science, whatever subjects you have. Maybe starting with the most fun subject might be a good alternative. But just being a little bit more flexible, maybe asking them what they want to do first, because I have found that my son is being more vocal with what he wants to do first. And that has actually helped me with him because he has a better attitude approaching his schoolwork. Whereas there have been days where he's just giving me an attitude from beginning to end. and we're both frustrated. And so I've either had to change it up and be like, you know what? You can play for a little bit. This is what we're going to do. This is the time that we're going to start school. And, you know, we'll change it up that way. Or he'll come out straight and say, all right, if we're gonna do school, can we do this one first? And then after we do, you know, sometimes usually he likes to do Bible first. So sometimes like, can we do Bible first? And after Bible, I want to do math. And after math, I want to do science. And he'll just run off like that to me. He'll tell me already the order in which he wants to do things. And so, you know what? Yep, that's fine. We will do it that way. That's what you want to do. We are going to do it that way. And then he feels like there's not as much pressure. And then he knows what assignments is left. I have a schedule or rhythm type of sheet that he has, and he can check off, and he knows what assignments he has left. And so that's also helpful. So I think just being more flexible and not putting so much pressure on them, especially if they're feeling overwhelmed with specific subjects or just not liking certain subjects, then I would say just try to approach those subjects in a different way and just be a little bit more sensitive to not putting that pressure on them and making them dislike school even more. And I feel like that's something that can easily, especially just kids in general, I feel like they can easily dislike school just from feeling the pressure of everything, from whether it's the curriculum, maybe they have too much work, maybe it's the parent putting so much pressure on them and getting things done by a certain time. You know, if you see that they have their math assignment, maybe it has too many problems on there. And so saying, you know what, maybe do the ones that you circled, only do the ones that I circled. And then just maybe cut it in half, or say, do this half now. And then later, I want you to come back and do the other half. And just change it up a little bit. So definitely recommend just being flexible and being more free and just not putting that pressure on them. So I hope that you found this video helpful. If you did, please don't forget to hit the like button. It really does help me with my channel. And comment down below. Let me know, what are some of your favorite tips and tricks to helping your reluctant learner? Or if you have a child who just straight up doesn't like school and it doesn't matter what you do, what do you usually do to make it better for both you and the child? And so definitely share that down below. Don't forget to check out the playlist on Ashley's channel, because I'm sure there's going to be tons of wisdom in this playlist on how to help your reluctant learner. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye.